Let's look at the bottom attachment. There's some interesting variations here that all lead in bad places for white. White needs to be careful here. When black attaches on the bottom, he is attempting to connect his two stones, obviously.
Right. So white needs to try to prevent the connection. Now, which side? The situation seems sort of symmetrical here, but it's not really symmetrical because white has help on this side. What that means here is that white actually needs to play away from the side where he has help, and we'll see why that's the case as the situation develops.
So, black has only one option here unless he wants undue pressure placed on this stone. He needs to cut.
Now, with this stone in danger, white has to go ahead and this puts this stone in Atari, and it also threatens to. We see now where this later move, we're threatening to get underneath.
So, if black was to do the same thing on this side, white will be able to just poke out and now separate his two groups, because you can see that an Atari on the second line can't be saved. Mm-hmm. So that this is a terrible shape for black. So therefore, black can't go ahead and do the same thing. He has to Atari on the top, protecting his connection and also maintaining his influence in the center of the board.
Right. Now, white risks getting cut apart if he doesn't respond as well, so he's got to connect here.
Black doesn't want white to push out into the center, and so he blocks.
Okay. And then the next thing, I believe, is
it's the
cut.
Now, this wasn't possible if this whole shape was reversed. If white had Haned on the other side, we would have seen how there was a...
This cut would end up being over here, facing this direction.
And because there's no help from white doesn't have any friends, it wouldn't work. Mm-hmm. White would still be able to live on the bottom.
But it'd be really small.
Small and isolated. Mm-hmm. So, but now, because white Haned on this side, which is very important, white needs to Haned on this side to then be able to get the moves over here, which are forcing, and allow him to make this cut. When white makes this cut, things look scary for black, because black has a lot of separate groups. He needs to worry about this, and he can't let this stone die, notice, because this is an enormous corner. This is really big. So black needs to...
he needs to see to his own safety here.
He needs to protect this stone first. He can't just attack this, because that would be terrible. So he needs to make this forcing move first.
Right, so this forcing move, white has to go ahead and capture.
And now, black might be tempted to seal white in and attempt to make the kill. But if black does that, white will go ahead and play that tiger's mouth there.
Black now has to run for it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he'll be Atari'd on the second line.
Unfortunately, that's not enough, because...
Now both of these cuts are protected thanks to this stone over here.
So white can make the double Hane, leaving these three stones with only two liberties, compared to...
So here these three stones have one... It looks like they only have two liberties, but black can't play here without first playing here, so this is called an approach liberty. So this group actually has 1, 2, 3 liberties to black's 2, so black dies in a capturing race.
Right. So black can't afford to spend the time to make this move first. Instead, black has to protect his two stones. And the way he does that is by playing on the 3-3. And we've talked about this before. When you're fighting in the corner, oftentimes the 3-3 point is the vital point.
Right. So now, white might be concerned about the safety of these white stones. Might be tempted to play here. this move would unequivocally make these stones alive, because he'd for sure have a guaranteed eye here and here. Problem is, it's not Sente, it's very slow, and it allows black to get too much over here. So, what you can think about doing is when you identify a problem, like say you want to make these stones here live, don't just immediately jump at the first solution to that problem that you see. It's true, this is a solution to that problem, but there's another solution that's better that we can do first. And that's to go here. This is that same thing we were talking about before, about how we're threatening to put these stones in Atari, we're threatening to take a big corner. If black wants to keep his stones alive, he's got to respond here first.
And notice that this is bigger than this because white is separating groups. He's doing more than one thing. We've talked about this in the past as well. Do as many things as you possibly can with a single move. When white plays here, he's threatening to separate this group as well as make that group alive. So black's response is to connect up. This works because if white goes ahead and plays there, black can cut in an Atari and then capture this stone later.
Now, at this point, now white does need to go ahead and save this group, so he plays under there, as we said before. That guarantees 2 eyes.
And now, white is fairly strong over here. He has some eye shape. He's out. He's towards the center. White is unequivocally alive on the side. And now we want to look at this shape carefully. Mm-hmm. I remember when I was first learning, this seemed very strong to me because you've got 4 stones that are extremely close to each other. But we've already talked in the past about how if the surrounding stones are strong, you need to look very closely at any weaknesses that your groups have. And in this situation, because of the strength of these 2 white groups, if black doesn't do anything here, white can cut directly, and something's going to die. Now you might think, well, that's okay, because black can play elsewhere.
You get a big move on the other side, it'll compensate.
Yeah, that's true. You could get a big move on the other side, and it might work out for you. But the thing to remember about this move, or any else other move on the board, is that they're hopeful moves. They're not. You're not taking definite territory over here. You can't count this as your territory. This is still invadable later by moves like this, reducible or splittable. Even just a regular 3-3 point would help to reduce the amount of territory on the side. So this is something where we need to train our perception of the game. A move like this is not as important as a move like this.
And they're saying play urgent moves before big moves.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what this is.
This is an urgent move because if it's ignored, then white will take something. And notice what it looks like when those stones come off the board.
Yeah.
Even if black has a move here.
Yeah.
What does the game look like?
Yeah, black gets very, very loose influence here. White gets very solid influence here. It's not fair.
Right. So, given that black needs to protect this, and which is interesting, really. I thought this was interesting that this little protective move here is effectively Sente. Mm-hmm. That's also something to bear in mind. Sometimes defensive moves can be Sente. So in this case, black needs to defend his cut. This is probably best. He can also do it here. This is too slow. So black plays here. And that brings our Joseki to an end. Let's look at what everybody got.
Okay, so, well, first of all, white did get some thickness pointed in the direction of a stone he's already got on the board, so that's useful. It is thickness, it's a lot of thickness, but it's thickness that has some places it can be poked at, thickness with Aji, so to speak. He also got 2 points here, maybe, we'll see what he gets over here. It won't be much. He got a little tiny bit of territory. And if black plays that move, then white does come away with Sente.
Yeah. White might spend that Sente here. just because a move like this would be very big for black.
Right.
But it's not 100% guaranteed that white would do that.
Now we're at a point where it's big move versus big
Yeah.
move, not big move versus urgent move.
Exactly. Black also, just to let you know, will eventually be able to get this move, but it's not critical. It's just something that would help build the center.
Right.
So, as stated, white got a few points on the side, but he's alive, and he got some influence towards the side. Black got a living group, only a few points, probably about. Right now we can't tell, but maybe
6
to 8 points in the corner. He also got a group that is alive, it's not alive in the sense that it has 2 eyes, but it's.
So you got
really
so many
hard
places to run that
it's
so hard.
really hard to attack. It's very hard to attack this group, and it's facing us his general area where he has friends. So I think this is better for black ultimately. I think that even though white gets Sente and might play something like this or maybe that is the best. I think that this might end up being better for black in the long game. But still,
maybe it's pretty fuzzy though. It's pretty close.
It's very even.
Yeah,
Playable, definitely.
for sure.